I'm Sabina. Feel free to keep eating while I'm talking, but please stop talking. Okay, I'm Sabina. I don't usually facilitate this meetup.
You can just start by saying, I am not Sean Duffy.
Yes, exactly. I'm just standing in for him. And I'm so glad Scott is here. He can help me navigate this first part. What's
Different color
that?
hair, so not Sean. She does not have a beard.
Yeah. You guys all probably know Sean. He's out of town for a couple weeks, I think about a month. And so he just texted me actually, and he's like, hey, can you manage this month? And I'm like, all right. So that is why I'm here. But excited to have y'all here. So thank you so much for coming. Today we're going to have the Innovation in K12 Computer Science panel. That is the hashtag if you want to tweet anything. So this group is a community that comes together to connect, to collaborate, to innovate together. All of us have a shared interest in EdTech and in the K12 space. So it is volunteer organized. I was not paid to do this. So if you want to help out, definitely reach out to Sean or Scott Lipton. Where did Scott go? Okay, yeah, or Scott. So if you want to play a role here, being on a panel or helping to manage one of these events, please reach out to Scott or Sean. We've got 2,000 members. You wouldn't know it from this room. There's a lot of us. So it is growing. I want to say it's the second largest EdTech meetup group in the U.S.
Well, it's the third largest, only the Bay Area and the New York area. So if you're just looking at a city, this is the largest city. Well, we can say Central Texas area, which are not all yours. Yes, we're the third largest in the world.
Awesome. Wow. Globally. Nice. All right. So we should take some pride in that. That's pretty awesome. All right. Here are our sponsors. They're wonderful.
Thanks,
all right, I'm going to go through our agenda. We're going to move a couple things around a little bit because we have a very special group here to do a demonstration. I want to give them some time to set up. So first, this is the welcome, and we're going to hear from our reach here in a moment. Then we're going to have our panel. We're going to be discussing, answering some questions from Link here, who's our moderator. We'll do introductions here in a second. Then we'll do some Q&A. And we're actually going to swap these last two. If you've been here before, actually, raise your hand if this is your first EdTech Austin meetup. First one you went, oh my gosh! Thank you for coming. We're going to do a lightning round. And what a lightning round is anyone who has anything to share that would be relevant to this group has 1 minute to do it. We're going to swap these last two things because while we're doing our lightning round, the AutoAuto team, which is like the most cutting-edge computer science thing I've ever seen, is going to be setting up for us. They're actually in the back of the room. You can tell from Ryan's AutoAuto shirt. They're both AutoAuto shirts. So they'll be setting up. So we're going to swap those two. But Harish would love for you to share a couple of words. You're actually at Capital Factory, so you should probably be talking and not me. So.
No, that's great. Thank you for that.
Yeah, sure.
So I am Harish. I help run the accelerator and the venture fund here at Capital Factory. So a big part of that actually is the EdTech portion, whether it's in the CF community or in our venture fund or accelerator portfolio. So I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit today. We are furthering our initiative in regards to exposure opportunities, a lot of introductions to investors, advisors, partners, clients. We're really putting a lot of initiative towards the EdTech community, and so we're trying to kind of boost that up in the coming months. And so I would love to speak with any of the EdTech founders in here. If you know a really cool EdTech founder, it's my job to get to know them, plug them into either the community, the accelerator, or give them money. So I'd love to do that. My email is up there, areej@capitalfactory.com. Shoot it my way and keep being awesome.
Awesome. Thank you. Let's give it up, y'all. All right, well, we're going to get this show on the road. We're going to kick off with our panel now, and I'll give it over to you, Link.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Link Clark. I work for Code Interactive. It's a nonprofit that works to expand CS education in public schools. And thanks to Sabina for inviting me to do this. One of the things I want us to keep in mind tonight, because the idea is innovation. And innovation is not value neutral. I hope we can all agree to that. And so because of that, we wanted to ask you like where you're coming from in terms of the idea of CS education. So Sabina came up with a plan for us to kind of reach out to you and get some feedback from you about what you think about CS Ed, and more importantly, whether you think it should be a requirement. So if you will, do me a favor, if you think CS should be required of every public school student, just give me a solid thumbs up. If not, solid thumbs down if you're like, I don't know, maybe a little bit in the middle, like wiggle a little bit, all right? So let's see.
What?
Whoa, we're already off to a good start. Got some controversy
I
here.
love it.
All right, cool. Very good. So, that's awesome.
I wanted a clarification. Do you mean computer science, or information technology?
All right, hold your horses. Whatever you think of when you think of CS, right? So we'll let everybody introduce themselves. I just wanted to, for us to think about if we're going to be considering innovation and how we discuss innovation and plan for innovation, what does that look like? Like we're all coming from different backgrounds. I was discussing with Nick, 100 years ago, innovation actually meant compulsory 12 years of education to create good office workers. So they knew how to take orders, essentially, right? Like that was innovative at the time. Factory workers. All right, so we'll let everybody introduce themselves and we'll get started.
Who are you?
Oh yeah, you're
Yeah.
gonna introduce yourself, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Code Interactive, awesome. All right, you just heard from me, but I'll share a little bit about myself. I'm Sabina. I wear two hats currently. I work on Teach for America's national strategy team. Any alums here? TFA alums? Yeah. Oh yeah. Right. Awesome. Okay. And I also founded Hello World Tech Studio, which is a computer science enrichment program.
Awesome. My name is Matt Stevenson. I am the co-founder and executive director of K12. We are an Austin-based nonprofit, and we are focused on equipping girls, students of color, and low-income students with the technical and professional skills they need to compete globally and to excel in technical fields.
My name is Ryan Torby. I am a kindergarten through 5th grade computer teacher, and I lead Computer Science for Texas, or CS4TX, in Austin. CS4TX, our goal is to expand computer science education in the state of Texas in the K-12 range.
My name is Nick Hahn. I'm part of two things. First is I'm a design lead at IBM, IBM Design. So I run a design team and foster the communication of product all the way through the gauntlet of production and design. And then I also started a summer school program 2 years ago for high schoolers, which has evolved into sort of a holistic computer science, design, entrepreneurship program, which is currently operating as weekend events for kind of like hackathon, create-a-thons we call them. And so we're trying to really connect students with the full array of building a product and being innovators. So doing a little bit more beyond just computer science, but also integrating design and research and all those other fun aspects of creating something.
Great. And just a quick note, if you don't mind, when you're thinking about your questions for the panelists and for each other, try to focus it on somebody in particular as we have the panel move along, just so we can kind of dig into each other's experiences a little bit more. And actually, I want to start with you, Matt, because when we asked about like whether it should be required or not, CS education, you said it shouldn't be. So my first question is, why is CS critical? Which the inverse of that is, why is it not critical? Since you don't think it should be required, could you tell us why you don't think it's critical?
I guess I don't think of CS education in this binary of like, is it critical or not? If it's not critical, then it's not. Sorry, if I don't think it's critical, then it's not critical. Like I think it's powerful. I think that CS education helps you understand the world in a way that something as basic as looking at Netflix and saying, hey, if you know CS education, you can take a look at recommendations and know that, hey, there's linear algebra at work, and looking at your Twitter feed, hey, I know that there's some matrix algebra going on, and they're saying 140 characters, but it's really a string, and knowing, like, those little things can help you make decisions on a macro and micro level. So I guess I think of CS education more from an additive way rather than it's essential, right? It's like shipbuilding is also essential, right? Whaling is essential. And, you know, there are a lot of things out there. Like there are a lot of things out there that we all need, and without them, we would be sort of in a detrimental position. But I guess it's not black or white for me.
Okay. Great. Anybody else want to jump in? Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
So I think about a year ago, I probably would have been more around this way and wouldn't have had a solid answer. But I, through my work and my teaching, have thought a lot about this question. Is computer science, should it be required in schools? And when I've been thinking about it, I think it helps to take a step back and ask, what is the purpose of education? So the purpose of education is to prepare students to be successful in their time and place. And I think that our time, we are in the digital age. Our place, we live in the United States of America. And that because of that, there's really no better kind of course of study that should be integrated into our children's education than computer science education. I think that students who are part of computer science classes, they are going to be the students with the skills and the knowledge that will allow them to shape and reshape the world. And that we want to empower all of our kids in that way.
I think I asked the question, like, what's the purpose of computer science education? Is it to make an army of people who know how to code? That's unfortunately a lot of the rhetoric I'm hearing in the education space. I don't come from education, and I've just spent the last 3 years kind of getting to know it better. And a lot of the push has been, let's get this big Java book that's an AP Java book into high school, right? And I'm terrified of that because I think everyone needs digital literacy to be able to be competent in their job today. Everyone's working with technology every day, no matter what business or industry you're in, farming to creating apps. You're working with technology, so you should have a basic understanding of how these things work and the interconnectivity of it, as opposed to just going, I hit a button and it does something, right? Like, I don't know how to program that, but I know the basic mechanisms that go into play when I hit that button. And so teaching kids that basic understanding, I think, is a fundamental. Forcing them to learn significantly more beyond that, I feel like is like enforcing everyone to learn trig or calculate, like the high level math that probably aren't going to use beyond just the academic world or in a very technical science space. And so I would like the conversation to be more than just CS. I would like the conversation to be around helping kids become better thinkers, problem solvers, and people that are observant of the world around them to see and feel like they're empowered to be able to tackle the problems they see instead of just being passengers on the ride. And if they feel empowered to make those changes, then that's going to make them really, really successful in their life, as opposed to just creating armies of people who can code.
Yeah, no, completely. And I would build off that point. My first question, when you ask this question, is what is computer science?
Yeah.
And I think there is a rhetoric out there of like it's programmers and it's coders, and I think those are critical components of it, but it's certainly not just that. It teaches you pattern recognition, abstraction, research, being able to solve problems, creating things. I almost think of it as if every time we said computer science, instead replace that with mathematics. And if we were saying like, should every student have to be learning math? Should it be required for every? The answer is yes. There's just incredibly advanced, sophisticated tools that allow you to do a lot more. So I think it's important to understand how are we defining computer science, and computer science is a set of tools that really enables you to do anything. I have friends, one friend in particular who's a journalist up in New York, and she's doing quite well, and she told me she's taking a programming class at night. I'm like, you're a journalist, you're a writer, why are you taking a programming class? And she's like, actually, we all have to become digitally literate. I have a friend of a friend who's a music composer. He uses programming to create his music. And I'm like, this is unheard of. So I think you're completely right that every field is now a tech field in some sense of the term, and to be completely liberated in that field and honestly competitive in that field, you need to be able to integrate programming into that field, I think.
Actually, I'd like to stay here for just a second. Any of my wigglers or thumbs down feel like volunteering to be like a teenager to push back at any of this? Saying whether it's required or essential or important, like you feel like volunteering for that?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so your inner teenager, push back and have them explain to you why this is important.
Well, like, I get why I gotta know, like, where my files are and stuff, but, like, why do I have to, like, know the difference between a byte and an integer and a string and an array and, like, what's with the like, boolean thing?
It's funny because you clearly have the CS engineering. That's number one. I don't know, do you guys, I have thoughts, but someone else.
What do you think? This is on you guys.
Take it, so you're good. You're fine.
You're the teacher.
Yeah, and so here's the thing. I think that computer science, one, has a marketing and a messaging problem. And that people don't understand what it is, and they think that it's either tech literacy and technology applications, which is basically turning on the computer and understanding the very basics, or they think it's hardcore programming. And I think of programming as part of computer science, but then the other part of computer science is computational thinking. And I think there's a huge value add to having students know how to interact with computers in ways that solve problems, and using Boolean, or, I mean, some of the items that you talked about, you can solve problems and actually go forward through a process by thinking about that and then by doing it. And that is kind of the linchpin of what is important about computer science, is this kind of holistic view of we need to teach kids how to think about computers and think in the way that they can use computers to solve bigger and bigger and bigger problems. And then there's the added benefit is that they fail a lot. I love it when my 5th graders or kindergartners fail a ton, because they fail and then they want to be spoon-fed by the teacher, and I say absolutely not. You go look it up online, or you figure it out yourself. I was teaching today kindergartners how to use B-bots. They're programmable robots, and they're doing sequences with the B-bots. And the kids were working in teams. They were doing great. Many of them were failing at first, but then they have to iterate on their solutions and find the right answer. And I think some of those mindsets, combined with some of the skills that you can teach them, really, the end product is just extraordinary education.
Your question was around the learning the mechanisms, right?
Well, yeah, the distinction, to sort of expand on it, and you absolutely good points, but we still tend to teach math in a like early 20th century way. Even with Common Core, it's still very much like math's over here and stuff you do with math is over here. And so the fact that they are very separated, I think, leads a lot of teenagers to get stuck when they get into a computer science class and they're like, well, but I have to like relearn math again to do this. Why can't you just help me figure out where my files are?
It has a lot to do with not knowing what the application of learning those skills are, right? Like, I was a very annoyed student. I really didn't like a lot of the classes I had to take because no one ever told me why I'm learning this, right? And there was never any relation between the skills I'm putting together and possible futures and jobs and things I'm interested in, right? And so when I was putting my summer program together, I was really concerned with making sure I attract girls into the program. I've got 2 daughters in elementary school. And so I was really, really focused on that, and I reached out to the folks at Girl Start who are awesome. And I learned a lot about the language around teaching programming, right? And a lot of it is like very male-centric. And in a weird way, it's sort of like an anti-human perspective, because we're sort of saying, learn all these tools. Like, here's all these hammers and tools, but we're not going to tell you what to build with them, right? And so I learned that we should teach them have them explore what they're interested in, find something they want to build, and then they go, how do I do that? Okay, here's all the things you need to learn to do that. And then they're like, great, I'm gonna go do that, learn those skills to execute the vision that I have. And it's that application piece that gets lost in a lot of cases.
I think older version of you, like current, present version, is really questioning more the pedagogical practices around how you teach computer science, ensuring that it is applied and you can understand how it interacts with the real world versus like teaching computer science.
Matt, you want to talk to the teenager?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, my thumbs down, like the can be explained by the gap between the computational thinking that you were referencing and what actually takes place in most CS classes. And so I think that aspirationally, we want to empower our students to be able to think and to problem solve and all the things that have been mentioned. I think it falls flat because that really is teacher driven, and the teacher has to want to be able to implement that in the curriculum because it doesn't naturally come in the curriculum. I myself, I used to teach math, and so it was the same way. I mean, we have 12 units, and I lead you through about 8 different types of functions, and I had to keep saying, all right, this is what it looks like, because before that, in my prior life, I was a banker. And so I was like, this is what it looks like in practice. And they're like, whoa, that's a profit function, and like, I can make money, and this is how I can model that. And it's like, you have to make that happen, and so it's not a given. And given that what I've seen in sort of practice doesn't match up with the aspiration, I would say, yeah, anything can be super interesting, and you can sort of gear it towards problem solving. So that's why I don't think it should be required. So.
This hits on an interesting point, which is the teacher. And one of the problems in computer science education in Texas and nationwide is, where do you find qualified teachers? Because if you're graduating with a computer science degree, you're often going out and making probably more than the ending salary of a teacher who has taught for 30 years. So where do the teachers come in? How are they trained? And what's the pipeline going to look like moving forward if we do say everyone should learn computer science? Where do all those teachers come from? And in Texas, the We Teach CS program, which is run out of the University of Texas, has been actually trying to be boots on the ground in addressing that problem. The We Teach CS program has created an online course that trains currently certified teachers in computer science to take the computer science K-8 exam and certify those teachers. They actually give them $1,000 if they pass the exam. To be computer science teachers and to gain the skills that they need to at least pass the exam and get in on the ground level. But it's a struggle. It really is, and it's a struggle to get good teachers who want to stay in the classroom and teach this content to our kids.
That's a great segue to the next question I wanted to bring up, which is barriers. So what he's talking about is a simple labor issue. Like, you just don't have the people to do it. But there are other barriers that have come up. Like, what Matt's talking about is like educating the public on what this even is. And in this classroom right here, we're just disputing what it even is. So I think this is a really good point. Just speak a little bit about barriers, and then in general, what I want to hear, because I think everyone here values sort of expanding diversity of access, like where you see the barriers in inequity in access to what you want this to be, whether it's an additive program or it needs to be in every classroom. What barriers you see there? You want to start, Sabina?
Yes, I can speak more to the latter. I know I think Ryan and some of you may be better versed in the barriers. One thing I'll just speak to about that is that it is sort of the Wild West right now when it comes to computer science, because it hasn't been around for centuries of how do you teach this craft. And I know that that's been one real challenge that this space faces. But I do want to share just some stats around the inequity across lines of race, class, and gender. And how that plays out in computer science, because it is staggering. So in 2014, of those with bachelor's degrees in computer science, only 4% were African American, 5% were Latino. In 2015, fewer than 10 girls of any race took the AP Computer Science exam in 10 states. Not a single African American took the exam in 9 states. even among those African Americans and Latinos and natives with STEM degrees, only 30% of them have STEM-related careers. Every time I see those stats, I'm like, this is a real challenge. And what strikes me even more is that 96, I forget what it is exactly, but 96 to 98% of all computer science majors report exposure to the field before majoring in it in college. So if you've never had exposure to it, you're already thinking like, either I'm not worthy of this, I don't belong in this. Obviously there's the challenge of, you don't see enough representation of people of color and women in these spaces, so you're less likely to pursue them. I think the biggest barrier, I'll just say this and then I'll move on. The biggest barrier I see is that there's just no incentives for school to make this a required course. It's not a graduation requirement, it's not tied to funding, so that just has obvious implications when you're a school leader making decisions for your school. So share that piece.
So we launched programming last September with 2 schools, Aikens High School and the Ann Richards School for Young Women Leaders. We started with 30 students, and our stats are 70% girls are at Ann Richards, and 80% Black or Hispanic students. And so the way that we were, I'm sorry?
That's so great, yeah.
The way that we were able to do that was by intentionally targeting schools that either A, have predominantly students of color in their populations, B, qualify or are eligible for Title I funding, so 40% or more of their students come from economically disadvantaged backgrounds, or C, both, right? And so we've added 5 additional partners, so we'll be at 7 schools and serve about 150 students starting this coming September. All that said, what I've noticed is, one, there's a greater likelihood that if there's a student who applies to our program, they already have a computer at home. So you've got an issue of socioeconomic status. There is a greater likelihood that, just given the demographics of Austin and the schools that we apply to, sort of what Sabina was saying, you're more likely to apply for things if there are people who look like you in the program already or who you see applying. So a lot of our Black students do not apply. It's mostly Latino and Hispanic students who apply. We, on a monthly basis, go to local corporate offices. So we've been at Facebook, we've been at Sci Labs, we're going to be at Google Fiber next month. It is more often that the boys speak up, even if the girls know the answers, or they're less likely to ask questions as well, even if they've got some awesome questions, and they always do. And so we see issues of race, gender, class come out all over the place, even when we're focused, hyper-focused on addressing those challenges within the students who we serve. And so I think it's about at-bats. We are all about at-bats. If you're outside of education, it just means as many opportunities to fail and to succeed as possible. And so in our curriculum, it is hyper-focused on bite-sized lessons that build up to projects. And they load up these projects on their personal GitHub accounts. By the end of the program year, they'll all have at least 30 projects. Some that look really crappy and some that look okay, but I mean they're getting better. In addition to that, like, we put them in front of senior managers so they can ask okay questions and like really good questions. They're usually really, really good questions, but it's so that they get those butterflies out. Our top 2 students today actually had their first ever interviews at a global tech employer. So very excited about that. Don't know if they'll get the job, but they had their first interviews in high school, right? I said, they were jittery going in, took them to Kirby Lane, said don't worry about it, like you're good to go. Afterwards they're like, that was actually like a conversation. You weren't lying. I was like, yeah, they want you to succeed. But I mean, I said, look, you are head and shoulders above your peers. They won't be getting these experiences for another like 5-6 years if they're lucky. The tech employer is a big deal here. So Yeah, I think it's about just giving them as many opportunities. I think seeing people that look like you is super helpful. So we are by and large a volunteer-driven organization. All of our after-school instructors are these committed volunteers who show up twice a week, every week throughout the school year. At most, a volunteer has missed like 2 sessions, which is crazy. And so yeah, we also try to source from affinity groups to get more women involved, more Black employees, Latino employees. So yeah. Cool.
I have a thought.
I have things.
You have things? Go ahead.
I've got some stuff.
Do you want to go
I was just
now?
gonna, mine's very short.
Go,
So
go.
I have been in a situation that I've been unable to have and I'd love to have further conversation because we haven't really talked at all. So to have access to students who don't have these sort of programs, like my kids go to Round Rock School District and they've got everything, right? I mean, it's just totally unfair. But the thing I noticed when I was going to school is the inequity I'd like to connect with is just the knowledge gap between what programs or what jobs exist out there and how your skills and passions apply to those jobs. You know, the first graders today, the jobs they'll have probably don't exist, but there's at least spaces and there's at least things that happen today that might relate to them. I feel like I didn't understand what jobs were available until I was already doing those jobs. And I think that's pretty common for a lot of folks. Like our subject matter in schools don't line up with the jobs that are out there, right? There's no alignment there at all. So one of my goals is to help close that gap, and I'm trying to help across the social economic landscape, so.
So with expanding equity, I think one of the key things to look at is expanding programs in K-5. Getting kids, and I see this as an elementary school teacher, I reach kids before they have preconceptions on whether or not they can be a computer scientist or a coder or have a high-tech job. Some of them may have conceptions about it, but they are much weaker than if you reach them in middle school or high school. My kids are growing up in a classroom environment, in a school environment, in a computer lab environment where we have some robots to play with, where we're doing some of the code.org curriculum, where they're learning Scratch. In our school, I've been able to help advocate for student time solely dedicated to computer science education. So they come to me 3 times a week as 5th graders, and they're learning the basics of computer science through Scratch, which is a drag and drop language developed by MIT, and then they are learning HTML and CSS using Mozilla's Thimble web platform, which kind of wraps it all nicely together. And the empowerment that students have when they're coding video games and they're creating art for their video games and they're actually given the time to be able to see themselves as successful in computer programming is really powerful. But then also, you're taking a longer amount of time to scaffold them up to higher level ideas and harder content. So instead of starting in 9th grade and putting them into an intro to CS class, what if they started in 4th grade or 3rd grade or kindergarten with the Bebots? And they're learning these skills all throughout, and it's more of a continuum or a gradual slope, maybe not continuum, a gradual slope up. And the scaffolding, because you're pulling it wider, ends up being much easier and much more prone to students seeing themselves as successful computer science practitioners and more seeing themselves more as, I can do this, I can do this, this isn't beyond my grasp.
The empowerment of it.
Yeah.
Let me share one more thought here.
Yeah, please.
Another gap that I've seen often play out across lines of inequity. So when I walk into a classroom, I can decipher very quickly the level of rigor of that computer science classroom through one lens. Are the students consumers of technology where they are either playing games or they're even consuming content, or are they the creators of technology, whether they're creating a web platform or solving a problem. And I will say, having worked in multiple schools and supported various teachers through Teach for America, oftentimes in our Title I school, they tend to be consumers more than they tend to be creators. So that's another lens that I'm thinking through, and just the examples that you're hearing here. This is about creating technology, so that in the world, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, for example, you're not just consuming the self-driving car and being on that end of it, but you're actually the engineer behind it that understands how it works and is creating it. And you see that parallel play out in life in all types of ways. Are you just downloading the app to use it, or are you the one that created the app? So that's just another
All I see is
perspective.
Wally, the people in the chairs that just.
Are you 100,000 pounds? And
Slurpee chair with the Slurpee.
Well, you're all doing excellent work, and I think this, Ryan, you made me think about this in terms of starting in kindergarten. How is your work sustainable? So say you go away, how will what you're trying to do still be around and affect this change against inequity? Because that's a hard one.
Well, I mean, for me, as I am going away, I'm going into a PhD program, so I'm leaving my school. I got into University of Texas, and I will be going and getting my PhD in STEM education with a focus on computer science education. And that the schedule there and the rigors of that program basically make it so that I'm leaving my full-time teaching position. I think that as I step away, one thing that I think that schools need to figure out and navigate is that programs cannot solely rest on a teacher. You need to, as a school district, create a community of programs, a sequence of courses, and a community of teachers who all are interested in coding and computer science. When you have everyone in an elementary school trained in computational thinking and how to introduce it into the classroom, one technology teacher who leaves then doesn't impact the whole kind of culture of computer science is important, we value this, we should integrate it into regular lessons, and then actually have a direct instructor or direct instruction of this in our schools. I think one thing, and this is just a kind of side note, that has in some ways hurt computer science is technology integration. Technology integration has happened in our schools, and it's been great, but a lot of times it's a checkbox that school districts check, and they're pushing Chromebooks or iPads or devices into classrooms, and instead of having direct instruction of technology where there's a teacher teaching how to create and leverage and use so well the tools of technology, they're getting these pre-packaged items, which some of you may be developing, but they're getting pre-packaged items that are coming in and they're replacing things that have already happened and always happened in the past. There are innovative things that can be done with that, but it's not a replacement for direct instruction of technology.
I think at the older ages, something that I think we all seek is a culture of mentorship that's lacking, and it's really empowering the older students to go and help the younger students that may already have latched onto something and have the confidence, and help spread that confidence to the next, even if it's a third grader to a first grader, like get them really interested in helping the next group to come up. I see that a little bit lacking in the lower grades, and it's exceptionally lacking in like everything after. I'm still looking for, anyone want to be my mentor? I'm looking for one.
He's not joking.
So our approach to sustainability, when we started planning for what our program model was going to look like, we started looking at other programs because at this point there are probably like at least 100 coding nonprofits nationally. And so we talked to a couple, and one of the things that we noticed, and I just remember seeing in my work in education, is that teachers leave. They just leave. And there are just so many barriers to, when you think of just scaling CS education, and teacher attrition is one of them, but it's like, okay, can you convince a principal to give up that teacher because if they're training on CS, then they are no longer a math teacher, or they're no longer an ELA teacher, or they're no longer teaching whatever else, and then you have to fill that role with someone. And if they were awesome at what they were doing before, then why would you want them to leave? And how do you know that they're going to stick with CS? And then there's the financial cost, and then there's the time cost, and then when they do leave, then you have to go through this all over again. And so our approach to sustainability is, rather than trying to find teachers and impart CS education to them, is instead shift to, why don't we go to the subject matter experts, volunteers from the tech community, have them teach, and use teachers of record to be the instructional experts in the class. And so if we give them a baseline of the pedagogy of student engagement, CFUs, being able to collect data and understand, like, hey, are they actually learning this? Then that's a way for us to ensure that we've got high quality on the content side and on the instruction side. So I remember when we talked about sustainability, it was like, are we sustainable? And it's like, well, so long as people are generous with their time and would like to continue volunteering, absolutely. If that holds true, then we can, like, the sky's the limit. The moment that no longer is the case, then we are blank.
You know, without like a massive revolution in the way schools are structured and programmed, there's just no way they can keep up. Their cycles are so slow. I mean, private businesses with millions and millions of dollars can't keep up with technological revolution, right? And so it's just crazy to think that year after year, administrators can inject the programs that are going to keep them relevant. So it's up to programs like yours and others to bring all of it together and help those kids out. So it's almost like you have to do it on the side in some way, shape, or form, or in partnership with.
Yeah.
As opposed to expecting them to be able to do it.
Yeah, I think it has to come from bottom up, rather than it waiting for the administration to make a decision that you're already trying to convince them so fervently to make. It's like, we know that it's important, so we need to work together as a community, leverage the resources that are already here to make this change happen.
Yeah, I think the schools have a lot of resources. It's just a matter of them being fully utilized. I mean,
I would push back on that.
I wouldn't say like all of them, but a lot of them have resources that are, they don't really get any training on and stuff.
Do you mean physical resources, or you mean the human capital in the school?
They don't have the human capital, that's it. They have the computers, they have the programs, they have the software, whatever, equipment, but not necessarily, then they have the people to teach, but a lot of times the weakness is in they'll send you to like a one-day workshop or whatever. I mean, they're usually run by somebody that's trying to sell you something, honestly. But I mean, what the teacher probably needs is just somebody, that, just like how you teach your students technology, you teach them by demonstrating it. They need somebody that can actually come in and say, okay, this is what you're trying to teach, well, and just demonstrate it. I mean, I've taught, like, I worked at this one school where a lot of the teachers would sit in on the classroom. I had kids from 4-year-olds to 8th grade coming in, and they would come in like once a week and they'd have their technology class. And I would just ask the teacher, what are you teaching? And they'd tell me, and then I'd try to find some kind of lesson that would relate. And like none of the teachers, it was a private school, none of them were like computer literate. And then I left shortly after, and some of them were like, well, how did you do this? Because they had seen me do it. Like, the whole year they'd come in, not all the time, but every once in a while they'd be sitting in there. Their students were confident, students were showing them, the fourth grader, fifth graders, or 4-year-old, 5-year-old, do this, do that. and they've got the confidence, and some of them were like, can you give me that lesson? They wanted to continue to do some of that stuff, but that's not normally what a teacher experiences, even if you have people with the expertise, even if you have people with the content or whatever. It's like everybody's planning time is different. I mean, there's just like really not a lot of time to really collaborate with with people like face to face. Of course you have this curriculum and you got your videos, you got all this online stuff, but then when you have a question where it doesn't really make sense, there's nobody there to ask. I mean, that was my problem when I was teaching technology classes, is I was the expert, so I didn't know how to do it. There was nobody to ask. And that's what a lot of technology teachers, well, I was a technology teacher, but even like people trying to integrate, there's nobody there to ask.
That's a great point. Let's do our Q&A. So we can ask some
You can
questions.
search, but you can spend hours searching and not find exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah.
I have a question. I think it's maybe an extension on what you're describing, specifically for you, Ryan. Do you need a computer science credential to teach computer science in Texas?
So it's a complicated kind of thing. So there's two different AP courses. We'll start at AP, and I'll try and limit this. There's two different AP courses that are now released for computer science. There's Computer Science A, which is pretty much solely focused on Java's programming. You do need a Computer Science 8 through 12 certificate to teach Computer Science A in the state of Texas. Now there's Computer Science Principles, which is recently released. It's been around for a year or two. And for Computer Science Principles now, you can actually teach, CS for TX got the rule changed and tweaked, and you can actually teach it with a tech app certification. So a technology application certification is more of a broad general teaching certificate. You can also teach computer science fundamentals, which is generally seen as the introduction, so it's an 8th grade course or a 9th grade course or early high school course. You can teach that with your tech app certificate. For computer science, the actual you can teach the AP Computer Science A, Computer Science 1, Computer Science 2, Computer Science 3, and a few others. With that all explanation, if you've noticed, it's all 8 through 12. There's not really any certification or even any classes designed that go below that 7th grade level or 6th grade level, and that's a huge problem. We have technology applications classes, which are kind of this big bucket class where it's general tech, but there's not computer science actual courses that I can say, here is the state ID number for this course, I'm going to teach this course, and it's a problem.
So then the follow-up question is like, if you don't need a special single subject certificate to teach the elementary or early middle school levels, then why isn't CS being pushed into general education classrooms? Or why aren't teachers with multiple subject credentials capable of teaching CS?
Yeah, and that's a great question.
Math or science, I mean, those courses have been around forever. I mean, that's a pretty secure job. I mean, they don't necessarily know, like, why would they give up teaching those courses to go teach computer science? You're gonna have to learn something completely new.
But you're talking also a little bit more about integration.
I'm talking about both. I mean,
just both.
When
Yeah.
I was a teacher,
Yeah.
I was not an astronomer, yet I
Yeah.
taught science, space and science. I learned it, through professional development.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge opportunity, and that it is not. There is no one, or I shouldn't say no one, but there is no one messaging it in that sweet spot to schools that's connecting all of the dots to motivate schools, teachers, everyone to get on board. And I'm not exactly sure what all those dots are that need to be connected, but I think that's the thing. And I think code.org has done a really great job of starting to do that, but getting it into all elementary schools, or a lot of elementary schools, you need to be connecting dots that aren't currently connected.
I saw a hand up, no?
I was just gonna say, AISD middle school, you have to have tech apps to teach it right now. for if
Yeah.
you're doing engineering or computer science or robotics. That's the cert.
Thank you. Yeah.
Given that we couldn't even in this room agree on what computer science was, and I don't think it's too far of a leap to state that we don't know the best way to teach this yet. It's still being discovered. Are you afraid if you make it a mandatory thing, or have you considered the secondary effects, the secondary costs of extra pressure on special education, special ed, when students fail, the effect on the students when students fail? Because in some ways, computer science requires a different kind of mindset. And if we're not teaching it right, there may be a bunch of students left behind.
Somebody want to direct?
I think we have to redefine what failure means. I mean, coming from not an education, I don't see getting the questions wrong as a failure. And the standard testing methodologies and the prescriptive way of saying you have to learn these types of algorithms and pass the test and show that you've memorized it, because honestly, memorization doesn't mean shit anymore, right? Like, you don't need to memorize it, you need the mental models to know where to go get this stuff. And you need the communities and the support networks and the motivation. I wish there was a different way to grade it, essentially.
One
I think
other
that's part of
thought.
his point though, right?
Yeah.
Sorry to jump in, but I think that's part of the point is that, like, if you, in the existing system and culture, if you then drop in one more required thing, what's gonna happen to it?
Right.
They're trying to get teachers that already have secure jobs to go do something completely different.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine there's probably hundreds of teachers across the state, or I shouldn't say teachers, licensed educators across the state that maybe aren't working in education. Or maybe even like homemakers. I think they should target them because they might want to come back to education, or they might have an incentive. Somebody that's already, secure in their job, why do they want to go and say, okay, forget this, I'm going to go do something else?
I just think I fundamentally disagree with that point. I don't think that
I'm not talking about on the K-5 level.
No, but I mean even at
That's
the high school
different.
level. I think that a lot of teachers are lifelong learners who want to push what they're doing, and that technology is so relevant right now, and that programs such as We Teach CS are giving scaffolding up, giving some incentives up to actually train teachers to retrain themselves in a field where you may be super highly desirable because there's not many CS teachers, but there's a ton of science teachers. So I think that retraining current teachers is a good idea.
If you're talking about teachers that are maybe going to get downsized, I mean, I think there's a lot of teachers that are, really do like technology and like to tinker around with it after work and stay up all night, but not as many as you probably need to integrate it through the curriculum.
What do you all think? Is there other teachers that?
So I'm a sped techer, so I'm special ed tech by trade, working with kids with special needs for 20 years. And there's so many things that are going off in my mind as we're kind of talking about all these things. And one, I really believe that technology is actually a great tool for kind of leveling the playing field. It's something that's highly underutilized, especially with our kids with special education needs. It's a trade. We've been differentiating since the beginning of time, so I don't know that there's that much different from having to differentiate or do things in a different way, but I think the technology actually kind of balances that out. I think we are definitely over consumers in terms of our students. Having more ways for them to actually be able to produce information is really important. But I definitely think there's a huge application there for all students having these skills, and I 100% believe we underestimate our kids 100% of the time, from our neurotypical kids to our special education kids, and it's our job, especially with these fields, to provide those opportunities for all of our students. Whether you're a gen ed teacher or a special ed teacher, we have to set the bar higher and know that, we're all lifelong learners. Technology changes every single day. Of course you don't want to have to keep on learning. You feel like you kind of have what you have now and it's going to change tomorrow, and that goes with the standards that change every day. We're going to keep recreating those standards and changing the TEKS or changing Common Core. It's kind of finding that balance. I'm really excited about the idea of, again, you've got your startup with, creating that program for that K-5 group, because again, if you can get them early with whatever you're doing, you're providing that opportunity. I love that idea of requirement, but it doesn't have to be the calculus, it could be those introductory courses and just providing those opportunities. I think all of these kids have to have that opportunity. So.
Now let's get a couple more. Joyce?
I think one question I have from what you mentioned about not only the teachers are there teaching mathematics or science for a long time, they have to be grading papers every day and they have to create, all this material. So my question is, perhaps for you, if there is, how do the teacher manage their training when they're training to be a computer scientist teacher now? Do the schools provide any, is there any system to this? They obviously need to have some training, right? How do the schools accommodate that? It's just their own time on the weekends, because that makes it much harder, right? To be
You're
able
right.
to.
It does make it a lot harder. I fortunately work for a nonprofit that's funded by a philanthropic organization, so that's kind of a dream world, right? That's not sustainable. Let's bring that back up. Does anybody else want to address that? Because I think that's a great question. You want to jump in?
Well, I would love to highlight a school that's here, Longview. Woo! Yeah! They're actually doing incredible work, and I don't think there's one Band-Aid solution to any school. I think actually where it starts is the disposition and mindsets and orientation of the school leaders and the team members of their schools, just knowing this is critical for us, we have to make it happen. And excuse me, when I think about Longview, what's interesting about them is they actually brought in people to themselves learn Python programming, for example, right? They're like, okay, we are starting to understand the applications of this. We understand how it can be integrated into other programs. And then, they found, we're partnering together and they're like, look, we have something called Build Weeks where we throw everything out the window and do something completely new, let's partner. So I think it's however you can make it happen. I know a lot of schools, I know for you, Matt, they make it happen in the after school space. I know with KIPP schools, we're thinking about doing something in the school day. I think with the district schools it's the most challenging because it's not a required course in your school. There's no incentives for teachers to learn a whole bunch of new material and take it over. So I do think that can be challenging.
It's not under career and technology either, which I think is a mistake. I think it should be under career and technology.
All right, let's do one more question and we gotta wrap it up because we've got a few more things to, sir.
So yeah, I want to ask, basically you have to scale this. To scale it, you have to be able to replicate and create a curriculum that you're going to be teaching. And we all know, we all talked about it, that teaching the theoretical aspects just don't get you anywhere. It's really the practical aspects and the applications that you want to be able to teach. So how do you create a practical set of things that you're going to teach that will give you the right tools, and create a curriculum that can scale, and have these teachers who maybe not exposed to that area at all, a practical area of actually doing these things, be able to teach these things effectively.
I think that Code.org has done a fantastic job. They have a middle school curriculum coming out, which is called CS Discoveries, and then they have their high school curriculum, which is CS Principles. They have set up now, so it's a very large nonprofit organization that does the Hour of Code, but then now has branched into this curriculum work. And they've set up kind of boot camps where teachers go to a location for a full week during the summer, learn the content, learn deep into the curriculum, and then they go out to wherever they're teaching in the United States, and they're followed up with, I believe it's 3 or 4 day-long trainings. You have to have those supports along with a curriculum that is well executed on, I would say, user experience. So you need to, whoever's creating these curriculums needs to be looking at who are the stakeholders. How is the administration interacting with the curriculum? How is the teacher interacting with the curriculum? How are the students and the parents interacting with the curriculum? And what is the journey from each of those stakeholders using that product? And if you can nail that, and Code.org has done fantastic with that. I think they're becoming very successful because of that. There are other organizations out there who have created the curriculums. It's not that teachers themselves need to create it, it's that they are already created and you can go get trained, and that University of Texas will pay for you to go get trained. Many of the programs, they will pay for your hotel, they will pay for your lodging or your travel, they will bring you to a location to train you for this.
And they have the applied focus like we were talking about.
Yeah.
We borrowed our first year curriculum, which is all front end HTML, CSS, JavaScript, from a peer organization in New York. But we're now building out our second year curriculum, but we're doing it with the end in mind, right? And so basically what that means is we are partnering with local companies because our second year is sort of like a data science year, so it's like 80-90% Python, and then the rest is SQL. And so we are essentially asking them, tell us some of your high need routine tasks, so like data manipulation, data visualization, and sort of just data projections. And we are then we are backwards mapping sort of those tasks and then planning out our curriculum accordingly, so that essentially by the end of the year, they are then equipped to enter into those internships sort of straight away, because they have been training for that the entire year. So like our approach is essentially a partnership between the education side and the private sector to say like, what are your needs? All right, let's teach appropriately.
I know in like career and technology, a lot of the trades, they'll actually do services for people and charge them like pennies on the dollar as their fundraisers to go to their competitions and stuff. They've been doing that forever. I mean, they can do the same thing with, coding class, say, hey, we'll make you an app or whatever. Just tell us what you want and have your, second-year students or your advanced students do that sort of thing.
I'm conscious of time, but I love that.
This doesn't have to end.
Yes.
We just need to move to the next step. So you want
So I just want to wrap up here really quickly, which is potentially, this is super selfish. I have something to say, so I'm like 10 seconds from each person of what, of the programs and initiatives we have, we of like trying to get them out there. So let's have, each of us will share like, look, you want to get involved, and we'll send a follow-up note as well. This is how to do it. And we need y'all as our evangelists to make this happen. So I'll go first. So we have a summer program. We have 5 weeks, distinct weeks of different programming. We have software engineering, where its main focus is on JavaScript, jQuery, and then we have an artificial intelligence and self-driving car course, which is co-led, partnered with the AutoAuto team, which is their dream. You're going to hear more from them in a minute. And then our third one is game engineering, which is mostly in Java and C#. We need students, and we have full scholarships. Like if you think about your kids, think about the schools that you operate, think about the classrooms that you teach. Danny here, who is the Jill of all trades for Hello World, is like literally ready to take your email address so we can follow up and fill these seats for our summer programs. So that's it for me, and I'll pass it on to Matt. Any ideas for how this group can support your work?
Absolutely. So we need volunteers always. We're wrapping up our program year right now. We have from sort of heavyweight to lightweight. So June 2017, from June 5th to June 30th, we've got about 20 students who are going to be building websites for local businesses. And so we've got a web dev volunteer opportunity. If you know HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and or jQuery, we would love for you to stop by Aikens High School for 2 to 4 hours. You can also, during the school year, which will start in September all the way through May, you can serve as an instructor at any one of our 7 schools. We're in AISD at Aikens High School and Ann Richards. We're in Manor ISD at both Manor New Tech and Manor High. We're in Pflugerville ISD at Hendrickson, Pflugerville High, and Weiss. So if you live or work near any of those schools, we would love to have you as an instructor. We also have monthly mentorship opportunities if you'd like to accompany the students at our local corporate office visits. And if you want to volunteer, we've got tons of opportunities. Find me, I've got tons of business cards. If you want to just throw money at us because you don't have time, we'll take that too. So we're nonprofit. Tax write-up.
Love that.
Excellent. Great. So for CS4TX, we are actually helping Code Interactive and the Coding for Texas program run a hackathon on May 13th. It's a Saturday. We are recruiting volunteers currently. So if you would like to be a logistical volunteer, a student mentor where you are helping them code, or a non-technical student mentor where you're just helping them come up with the ideas, we will take you, especially if you're in this room. So the sign-up link for that is tinyurl.com, it's a URL shortener, /coding4TX volunteer. We ask that you donate all day. Yeah, I may write it on the board, but we ask that you donate all day. It's 5th through 12th grade is the range of the hackathon. It's going to be an amazing day, I think.
At Reed Told Me Not downtown.
Yes.
Okay. So for Austin Spark League, my ask is very broad. We are not doing a summer program this year. We're looking to explore, we're sort of in a discovery phase. We feel like our first 2 years were really, really successful, but very small. And we want to find ways to expand in a way that's more impactful to more students over a longer period of time. So generally what we're doing is, specifically what we're doing is weekend-long design thinking and coding experiences for high schoolers. And so I'm looking for partners that would like to get together and either host or volunteer or donate. They're free events for the students, or if they know really great interested students in various school districts that would be great at creating things or just interested in that space. We're always looking for more students. We actually fill up really quickly, but I'm looking for more diversity of students. And then we're just, as far as myself and my co-founder, we're really just looking in the broadening field of how can we help and partner with other organizations. We've got 2+ years now of organizing these events. I think we know how to run them very well. So if you need help putting together like really cool, very impactful weekend events, that's something we're especially good at as well. So I'm happy to help in that space too. So.
That's it for the panel. So here's what we're going to do for the rest of the evening. We're going to spend around 10 minutes for the lightning round. That means for y'all in the room, if you have something like what we just did, 10-second, like, hey everybody, here's what I'm looking for, or here's what you could be a part of, we'll do that. In the meantime, the AutoAuto team is going to set up their demonstration, which is super neat. It's literally a little self-driving car that you can program it with Python. So yeah, while they're setting up, let's have y'all do your lightning round. And you can just stand up where you are and just project and share with everybody anything you're looking for, anything you need. So yeah, feel free to just stand up.
I'm just standing up.
My name is Lena, I work for the Austin Public Library, and I specialize in digital literacy. And so we're looking to host programs. So I'm yes, yeah. So any digital literacy programs, or
Do those programs need to be nonprofit organizations?
they should be free for the public.
My name is Robert Ochoa. I'm the director for Coding with Kids here in Austin. We work with K12. We have summer camps coming up. We're looking for kids to, enroll in our programs, but also for instructors to teach these programs as well.
Hello everyone, my name is Arjun. I'm part of a student startup at UT, and we are building a STEM tool for students, K-12 or college students, to solve their homework. And I would love to speak with educators here and just get their feedback on the tool. It's on the App Store, and I can share the link with you if you want to play around with it. Yeah, please talk to me, and I'll find you. I have some people in mind to talk to you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Stuart Wallach. I'm with a company called Blocksmob. We are an app builder, mobile app builder. We have an application on both the iOS store and Android. You go to our website, blocksmob.com, start building apps, and within 5 minutes, you can have an app on your phone without going through the hassle of the developer process. I encourage you guys to check out our 30-day free trial and start building apps.
Hi everybody, my name is Audrey Taylor-Kinge. I'm a founder of the EdTech here in Capital Factory. We provide professional learning videos for educators. It's crowdsourced, and right now we're looking for educators to create content. So we need people that are in the classroom that want to create 3 to 5 minute videos on behavior management or classroom organization or whatever it is that you think a first year teacher will like to do. Our platform shares revenue. It's a membership site, so if you create content, you get 60% of the revenue, monthly revenue, based on the views your videos receive. So we need educators to give us content.
My name is Keith McCormick. I have worked in ed tech for about 10 years, including special ed, everything from the classroom to all the way to elected official public policy side. I actually work in video games right now, but I'm just trying to stay connected to the ed side because it's something that's very interesting to me. So I just love to talk with people and stuff. I have to run in a little bit, but if anybody's interested, I'll give you a business card or whatever, we can connect.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth. I work at a school called Longview Micro School, and we actually teach computer science as a core subject area. So we're looking for programmers.
Starting in second grade.
Starting in second grade. So we're actually looking for programmers to come in and talk to us and teach us, what do you do in your real life job? Because we're trying to also give exposure to our students about what does real life jobs look like. So anybody who actually does that, we'd love to talk to you.
All right. Seems like a natural clothing point. Any final people that were planning to go? Okay, I'm going to turn it over to the AutoAuto group. Would love for y'all to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about the awesome work you do. And yeah, we'll have fun with this demonstration.
Hello everybody, we're AutoAuto. There's a few of us and we build cars like this ones, and we build curriculum to help for teachers and schools so they can teach CS using something very engaging like a self-driving car, like a miniature one, so we don't have any accidents. Go ahead, Ryan.
There it goes. Okay. Yeah, so like Joyce said, so we're interested in getting kids to be interested in computer science, because often maybe I was weird, but when I was learning programming and we were finding prime numbers, I was super thrilled. But I think maybe not every kid would be super thrilled to write a program and find prime numbers. I went on and got 2 degrees in computer science and studied machine learning. And so what we're trying to do is make this a very approachable platform for kids to learn programming, specifically they program these cars in Python. That's a natural way for them to start simple and level up, because Python is used in industry a lot for both back-end web development, but also data science and other things. So to kind of demonstrate the simplicity of this, and also everyone cross your fingers because it's a live demo. So the kind of hello world of this car is you just make it drive forward. So to do that, you import car, and you hope it works. It's running. It worked. And then you do car.forward.
Feel free to crowd around and go.
Very close. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's like little children.
Right. So guess what? They've imported a library. They've invoked a function. And we can even teach them parameters to a function next. So you want the car to go forward 2 seconds? Let's put 2 seconds here. Cool. There it goes.
I'm the engineer.
Yeah. Oh, and we're helping Sabina with her after-school program this last spring. And so what we did is we'd have the kids kind of pair programming. So we'd have what we call the coder would be on the laptop, and the engineer would be kind of toting the car around,
Figuring out how to do things.
Yeah, protecting the car. We made a big deal out of we made them take an oath to protect the car. Okay, so this is lab 1, just kind of getting their feet wet with Python programming. let me show you, like, once they level up several times, they might get to something like this. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, here's the code. So what this is going to do is they're going to use the TensorFlow library, which is a math library put out by Google. It's for very fast computation, mostly used for implementing neural networks. We're going to use a little bit of OpenCV. That's a computer vision library, supported a lot by Intel right now. They're going to use the car library, of course, because it's our car. They're going to load up a pre-trained neural network model.
Many of those words might mean nothing for you, but they learn all this.
Yeah, this is after leveling up several times with their cars.
Yeah.
They're going to learn about pre-processing on data. So in this case, the pre-processing will do an edge detection to remove the color and kind of get rid of some of the noise in the image. And then finally, they'll drive the car. So we'll see if this works. It should drive the car around the track, following the lines. This is just using a normal RGB camera, just a normal Raspberry Pi camera. We also have a live stream. Oh, and it died. Oh, there it goes. Oh, hold on.
Oh, yeah.
There it goes. So we also have this live stream, so you can kind of see. Yeah, you can clap.
So you can use in the streets the bigger version.
Yeah. Programming is hard. Like even when we're programming the car, we often drive it into walls. You know. So I liked what the panel was saying about programming is a great opportunity to learn like how to fail and try again, right? And learn how to solve your own problems. That's very much of how we work with these cars. So what we love is your support. Actually, if you don't mind, could you raise your hand if you're a teacher? Okay. Raise your hand if you're running some sort of EdTech startup. Okay, that's not everyone. What else do you guys do? Nonetheless, we love the discussion we've had at this group. We want to really get connected with this kind of community. So what we'd ask, if you want to support us, just like come introduce yourself afterwards. We'll take a card, we'll give you a card. We'll put you on our mailing list. It's great. It only goes out once a month. And that's it. Joyce?
Yeah, so, yeah, go ahead.
What's the logistics of your program like? You talked about just sort of they learn certain things, but like how long, for what ages? Let's get that part.
We're kind of in our not terribly rigorous testing. What we've observed is about 8 years old is sort of the tipping point where they're able to really grasp this and pick it up and enjoy it.
I've tested them at 7.
Yeah.
I love it.
We have had 6-year-olds that are to completely dig into it, but typing is a big challenge, you know, like they're barely writing, reading.
Finding the underscores.
Yeah, underscore. And I think as Ryan was saying, like bringing like you have seen out there, CS combined with robotics, right? That world is very engaging for the kids. What we're trying to propose to the teachers is to have as facilitated as possible all the machine learning, all the robotics with our learning platform. And even the CS part, if they still need to get into that slowly, you know, so the teacher can learn from that and then they can teach from that. So we're trying to get it out there as much as possible so the kids can be happy and play. You know, playing is the best way to learn. So if they look at the cars, we're playing, we're learning, and that's our goal. Thank you.
I've never worked with a better, more brilliant group of like data scientists, software engineers. So like, do reach out to them. They're incredible. They're so accommodating. They will co-create with you. All right, y'all. That's all. Please network with each other. Talk to the panelists. Mingle. I'm going to be outside handing everyone a flyer about our summer program. So you can hold it in that. Okay. All right. Thank you guys.
Saw this title at the panel, we're like, oh my gosh, yeah.
So I
really like your products. So when you're a lot of that kids are starting off. Yeah, I was just curious. Yeah, so they're right. I'm like, so they're not really. Earlier in the year, there was a little bit of mostly
We have a lot of development.
Interesting. Sort of like
I'm actually studying
Before they actually do So what we do is
Yeah, I was sitting there, I was blown away. I was like, wow, this is like what we're building as we speak. I was like, if nothing else, we're just hiring them to make this project. I didn't realize that Still alive. That's good. Yeah, it is. survive forever. That's like how it
It was secure file transfer.
Right. We have to sell it to the right people.
Well, yeah, we've been talking to people in the company and they're like, yeah, we already have a solution in this Dropbox. No, that's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, we want that. So like we have this communication and we did it the wrong way. We built it and then we went back to sell it.
So this is interesting.
That's what I've done my whole life. Because that's the fun part. I like doing stuff. I don't like selling it. I don't want to sell it. I want it to be so good that it just takes off on the set. I don't have to do it. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
I get it. It's hard to like disappoint your parents.
Have y'all like raised money or not yet?
Yeah, we've talked and so we've done that mostly the world studios. Sabina, she's on the panel. So she's on the world studios, the second half of curriculum. So we partnered with her to teach during the that's what we're come in like after school, like take care of that's good experience. So someone knows why we're not exactly going to have
just like college knowledge on people. Yeah, nice to meet you. I'm MacArthur. I don't know if you got that. MacArthur Gill.
How are you? Thanks for the presentation. So are you guys starting here in Austin? How many different competitions are you guys in?
We've only been with Hello World here after 4th grade.
Okay.
So we've been to 3 schools. One was a private school in January. And we've done like a bunch of hackathons. We were sort of like here at hackathons, we didn't have hackathons. Here at hackathons, like hey kids, come I haven't taken them out of that like one was so basically like we're in the stage of schools these competitions.
Do you need people to help further develop the product, or are you just trying to get it out there now?
No, so we're next to the development. So like this bar here, that way you I mean, we're chomping at the bit to actually like get into the schools.
That's where you get
The problem is like we have a good problem for startups. Like we are trying like there's demand for teams, but we've like actually don't have any scale. It's kind of backwards scale. But it's a good problem to have. So like I don't know. What do you do?
for example, didn't have a
How do
program
you get to art? Is this for next year?
Honestly, that's a problem I never thought of.
Because it's like not the fun part, you know, it's like they're doing the fun part.
Actually, I didn't even know they did that. Yeah. Transfer the things up.
Yeah, like all the students are great. It actually is very efficient. You know, everyone has to do this and that.
Yeah, no, I believe it. So, like, my day job is I teach data science.
Okay.
And I galvanize.
Oh, you're galvanized.
Yeah.
Okay. I took a class at General Assembly and they're combined or not really.
They're competitors.
Yeah. So competition.
Yeah.
How do you like galvanize? I did see your picture and I was like, I'm gonna see. I mean, your sticker.
Yeah, so
Your instructor.
I'm the lead instructor for the day job. I'd like to play.
Okay.
So my day job is data science. What's the data science rather? And then I do like some data science content here and there. Believe me, I've seen really crappy, inefficient data formats and like different formats. So I believe you. I feel for you.
Well, that's another thing is like now that we have the data in place, the data science, you know how hard it is. So like as a teacher, you need to visualize that data and analyze that data. Teachers don't remember to do that. You know, it's like they have a couple hours in the evening to figure out who's performing and how well they're performing and what level and the next day. I was just, this was awesome. I was just wondering like how you got started doing this.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I like teaching. My real job is teaching my teaching. So, and I've always like, so for me, like, I've always been really, I've always just had, like, I got 2 degrees in computer science, I'm going to do a third, outside of my, you know,
It's like all your worlds collide because, right?
Yeah, so like, I love this, because we can do machine learning, you know, we can do programming, that's cool, we can teach computer science, like, we teach computer science to kids.
Yeah, they don't even know they're learning.
They don't even know. Like we teach algorithms, we don't call them algorithms until like mathematics. But like really we're teaching computer science concepts.
I know whenever you like showed your demo, I wish I would have seen that, you know? So if you were just exposed to it somewhere, I didn't learn, you know, programming until later on in college. I think it's just like, just the exposure to it.
I know, it's amazing. It's amazing. My favorite memory from teaching with the whole world, for example, is actually in that same room with the car in the truck. And I got the kids, actually we had a projector with them, they were going to be practicing. We just watched this video like before we just stood around, it was like being before, we stood around the projector and I was asking my line, like, what do you think this is about? What do you think this is about? And like, I never taught it to them, but they were just guessing. And for the most part, they were right. And there were like these aha moments, like, I don't know if you can see, but the car kind of like shoots forward, so it stops and goes, and like, there's an aha moment when it's on the car, he's like, that's why it does that. That's why it does that. So it's so cool. Yeah.
Is it even just like teaching them like I mean that's like physics, like how many other products are out there that are doing this to students? Like there's so many applications that you think about. What is it? I don't remember what it's called. Internet of Things. Yeah. You're teaching that as part of the curriculum too, right?
Yeah, we don't have anything about that yet, but we could.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. To you guys. Absolutely. And so we have a lot of, so one of the things that we really try to do is have applications. We're in a tech study, but we like thinking about programming. Yeah, and one of my goals this year is to really get heads up on what I'm really doing. And like seeing who we're affecting students.
if I can take another aspect outside of data scientists. What's the one? 16 data scientists graduating in 2 months.
Okay.
So, and they're like,
hell yeah. Okay. Any of them interested in education? There's a lot of education data.
who is a math teacher.
Really?
He has a master's in mathematics, and he was a math teacher for 7 years. And he's at our data science class.
Yeah.
He would be perfect actually for my best friend.
Really? Okay. Because it's really hard to find people that are interested in
It makes me nervous because he used to be teaching.
Yeah, you know, it's very critical.
And he actually gave me like constructive criticism or feedback on the first week. He was like, really nice, check for understanding.
Check for understanding.
And I was like, I'm trying.
You're like, give me a clue, like give me a sign,
Actually, I
give it
started
enough.
looking at him, like as I was like searching for him, I was like, and he doesn't like nod or whatever, but I'm trying to like read his face.
Yeah, you're like,
I know he knows. He's like,
yeah, I'll definitely shoot you an email later. You just ask for like, to give me some information. Nice to meet you again. Take care.
Great question about it. Did you have this
And one of them so
and I know that
but those are the traits right now. You can't outsource
just from my curiosity, is this something that
no, this is. I mean, we're we're wrapping it up in the next
I'm saying there are
right. They have like a full-on nice light art. So like they're still at that level right now.
We also have some running songs, and they were telling us that they took 2 months to but then he's ready for real life.
Just stay.
Officially, I think
It's a career helping them out.
The difference is, like he said, he was computer science.
Yes, is what you're so my literally follow up your sitting there, so I'm curious what other macro
laptop here, my iPhone, which was recording the video, because
Everify is a company that's
that I was reading, what I was saying was on the laptop. So it was like teleprompter.
It's nourishment alphabet. It's just who's who. What they do is corporate sponsor network. They provide free places. So the thing now adult ed and college things that aren't
so what just check the list.
So they don't do computer science, but they always it is an illustration of stuff through the time. They have as long as you do create time. Yeah, because like when you get it back out, because they also thank you. So
yes, it's like
this feels like such a
when you get back out, you can see a little bit that way it's easy.
Because 500 teachers, you think of scale is up there, so it just solves this problem with scale.
That's the aim. That's the aim. Like I said, I would like to know because not a
and he talked about
the goal to scale H5
Yeah, but the difference is, like the Everify model is, Intel puts up $5 million and kind of strong arms for 1,000 engineers that are doing it, right? And a guy like you could go, and I'm sure that board of Everify is very smart. They got all the doors open, and they did it at such a macro level, right? And I just kind of wonder what that.
Yeah, it's really interesting what you should.
So is that, are you a teacher?
I mean, it's a good language.
Oh, I saw that.
And that was part of it. But then I closed the second, I closed one of them, and then it started working again.
Yeah.
And if that was teachers, I know a lot of teachers are like that. If I was went the other way.
If you're doing computer science,
She's already volunteering, so you guys had a great meeting today. So we didn't understand what the release So basically, what we do is we source volunteers from and teach our teachers twice a week every week.
Well, good. Well, I taught engineering design. So we have maybe like built software, data scientists, give us some data, tell us exactly, start building software processes, or build a rubric solution that we've done in the past that we can then build out. Yeah, the program I taught is to I started in 1997 specifically huge, like what we started there with gratitude. To break down barriers into this career. So primary seminary excellence so it's when it's strong for about 1967 and started to figure out. Now we're back to you go to math, then you go to physics, then you go to English, then you go to biology. So why you guys targeted so we went back to the
and you're shifting the conversation and getting better results. So something around and we also access. Not necessarily I think that is so I don't have a card for that, and I don't
What do you guys do?
I've been there for
Would you be interested in being on a committee?
Like a school has to buy this.
So they usually start people on
I think I need to look at my setup and learn a little bit more about spelling. I am. So what did you
understand outside of the car. The car is how it's more private better, of course, but like even if there's only a handful of cars, students can still do the curriculum on their own, in class, kind of go check out the cars.
And how much
we're still pricing it out, but I think we're looking around 150.
So what are the other requirements?
Things move very fast. I want like
Because supporting on several teams, what I used to say,
Maybe more to support.
That's where
platforms.
is their model is we started out doing Chinese fast forward 15 years, they basically they have schools that don't have a teacher. So they're pulling out across the US. So they're connected. It's sort of like Airbnb. They're connected like a semi-retired teacher who wanted to do so they beamed into the school. Teaching now. Physical teaching in the school. He's still there. He's classroom management. Just education. It's a good parent. It's like a subject matter. Well, the schools are desperate.
So she was there if I'm thinking I guess there's like a lot of teachers I'm thinking it sounds more my project like so but if you flip it to what just to like have her not spend all of her 20s she drawn so being in the classroom 9 or 10 years so that's still elementary so like is there a pathway that links I've done so like when yeah so like so I was gonna say to be so conscious of just like eye contact yeah so that just seems like so hopefully it would help math help there like you haven't been doing it. Oh, I'm sorry. No, actually, you just been volunteering, but you have they
the kids, yes.
Those guys
probably aren't
so what you more my only concern
like giving us 3 months left and by the end it was like, you know, $10.
Their main concern is hitting their core curriculum and does this fit with it, and if it doesn't, it's like, do we have time? And like when I think of not a distraction, it's like as an employee, design responsible things A through Y. It's like after I get that done, for principal, A through Y is like 24/7, and so like there's very little time for so I guess what I would say is they just started working with food interaction, and so they just started doing CS. So what you can do is if you pitch this to middle school, you guys are doing going already. So start with your 7th, 8th graders as like a because then and then the other thing is and I mentioned House Bill 5 passed a couple years ago. This 2 years of CS education, so I would just pitch it in as, hey look, you guys are already doing CS, this is something to prepare them, and it just fits naturally, and will
Do you enjoy the panel?
Yeah. So like
well, one, I've never been on it. So I love panels that I'm on now because I'm never been on it.
Yeah, it's like one of the things that I would say we should all just grab coffee or something. If you're able to pitch this as a we want to start this. They don't have a really good program. I mean, I am because they have an extended day. So if you plan to have something fine arts and they'll keep taking aside.
So I was a teacher before I remember I was on the board of the Design Association in Austin.
Because I do have a couple of ideas, especially for Kevin. And I do have some thoughts about who to talk to. So there's a principal over there in particular who I think would be really interested in this. I think you did administration. And so here's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're doing it as a great job.
What do you have?
You have to go? Well, yeah, for sure.
Too late?
Let's do it. And then
but I work on it so I don't have any backs. I'm currently using an entirely different card. The kids are building their own cards. But not mine. So I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Now they're in robotics kids. I know all the people in here because I've also taken robotics classes. Anyway, nice to meet you. I'll send you
to the extent that you guys are able to volunteer / us work together on thinking about this curriculum, that would be awesome.
July or something, there would be a good time to get a lot of the children.
He didn't really like
And you two are coming from oh, you're still working with them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I teach K12.
Which company?
Yeah, of course. And I know you like the summer program too.
all the work for you.
But you know
You don't want to hire some particular.
this is exactly the person. It's like, cool, all right, talk to you soon.
Nice to meet you. No, you're like they were like, hey, we should run into you. We'll meet up or we'll catch up with you.
I was so I was tutoring.
You were driving by.
I almost texted you yesterday because there was a big so I guess that helps. But I wasn't sure about it.
So what's the computer science?
And anyway, at one point the coder said, "Can we use Python, blah blah blah," but like that wasn't his point. But he was like, "Can we use Python?" But all the kids were like, "Yeah." It was really neat that they came here. That's
And it was really like they all. I don't know if I was.
They all have audiences.
Well, I mean, just because like with some of these, I think when I first started this fall, the youngest was 6. Is that going to be accessible? Yeah. And like the big, one of the biggest hurdles for the young ones is just knowing the keyboard. And so like I found, I think you, big brown bear, always the what? Like it's a way for them to, it's like a game-like environment for them to learn how to keyboard. So I mean, or like that's the hardest. I mean, months of true was calling quotation marks, parentheses. Like, just like had it swapped. And so whenever they said that word, I was like, I know what you mean. This is the word. Continue. Maybe some of the, like at first, it's even like, where's the Q button? We're still learning where the letters are, much less how to access anything that involves shift.
We've had kids where one does the shift and the other does like the parentheses. Like if they're like both 6-year-olds, like, alright, you take care of this key, I'll grab that one. They're like, that's a good idea. So you're on you too.
And they are targeting.
Okay, question.
Set it at the start.
How would you cut it down then?
So they're going in, they're walking.
So we don't do it, I've seen it done well. I've seen it as a teacher at middle school.
He is so.
It seems like she's doing something extraordinary.
Best thing ever.
But it's really because it's really a reflection
And he had
becomes
videos, he had like create videos.
like laboratory time.
Like, how would you not buy into them spending their time working and the teacher there, seriously, because, that's not what happened per se, but actually.
So how do you guys address
Okay, yeah, like, what is that?
Showing that you're part of the community.
So we don't really about my trying to categorize different.
So maybe we can get on to, I'll talk to Sean and see if
We don't really match number to seven, so it is. It's hard, it's more teaching and then it actually gives you all.
And we have like a lot of
Hey, this is any meetings are here. Yes. I'm so glad you showed up and you're great members. Get to have fun with It's fun to get out. Yes.
So the idea is that
imagine it shows up like writing maps, like I'll give them prompts that are like sometimes more creative than others. That they all have some access point. Like everybody has an access to get started. And that'll be like the first challenge where you use like the challenges or start with that like and students who, again, then while they're coding, I'll work my way around. Give them further challenges.
Like, I mean, that's kind of another thing I've noticed, because I asked about it too. I'm very but I do reinforce that. But the idea is, like say for programming, the students can learn the online automated syntax. We have to say for my kids. And then sort of during class when the teacher there, they can hack the labs. When they get stuck, they have to one 5-minute session.
And if you're juxtaposing the classroom with the opposite being, yeah,
Yeah.
but I guess I would say we don't
Okay. Maybe like if I'm thinking something it's never as bad as that. Okay, that's interesting. So maybe if I'm something is flipped, you guys might think it's not.
Yeah. So right, and I mean, we don't find that we're not probably.
Yeah, see, that is kind of what I do.
Sounds good. But I agree, I mean, a lot of issues that is what that got me as.
Yeah, it's obviously a spectrum.
We also,
I hope that's okay. I know that's why I use the model of schoolwork, homework, and work, so that the flip, like, you and the kid are home. Whereas like, that's another place our productization comes in, because we don't really assign homework, but every day.
I'll send you an email.
With the expectation they will do work at home, it just might be that one kid is like, you're in there, coding more, or another kid is like reading extra, or something like that.
I see.
So.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Y'all are doing cool stuff, so drive on. Yeah.
So we actually take.
Yeah, this stuff.
And apply it. We're working on the science. Great.
You must not have part 2.
I was
All right. Yeah.
I like the space.